Okay, so welcome to Reco12. My name is Lisa S. and I have the disease of alcoholism. We begin with a moment's silence for the suffering addict inside and outside of these Zoom rooms, followed by the set-aside prayer. Dear God, please set aside anything we think we know about ourselves, about our disease, about the big book, the 12 steps, the program, the fellowship, the people in the fellowship, and all spiritual terms, especially you, God, so that we may have an open mind and a new experience with all these things. Please help us to see the truth. We surrender this next hour to you. Your will, not ours, be done. Amen. So I am very blessed to be the host of this meeting and podcast that is in the Afro-Euro time zones. I hope that you will join us and draw strength and hope from these podcasts that we will host Fridays at now 12 a.m. UK time, PM, my mistake, new time, and 2 p.m. South African and European time, and 7 a.m. in Eastern American time. So Reco12 is an organization with the mission of learning and sharing the similarities of addiction of all kinds and gaining and sharing tools and hope from others who are walking a similar path. We come together from all places, faiths and backgrounds to gain tools and hope from others. Speakers from our past meetings have represented many fellowships, addictions and afflictions, and we look forward to continuing to add to the diversity of speakers and backgrounds, and I hope you'll reach out if you think your experience, strength and hope will benefit this special community. Today's speaker is Mags D, who'll be speaking for around 30 minutes, and we'll get her to share, followed by some Q&A afterwards. If you do have any questions, just pop your hands up after, or you can place a question in the chat. You can be anonymous if you wish to, and I won't read out your name. So the Reco12 family of recovery resources continues to grow and has more and more resources for the addict and the loved ones of those addicted. We have all these recorded shares and a couple of other super exciting projects, one of which is the Big Book Roundtable discussion, where we have a few fellows who read through the first 164 pages, line by line. It's David G, Nikki M, and Justin B, who go through that fantastic resource, all again on the website of Reco12. So Tradition 7, Reco12 is a self-supporting service, and we appreciate your help in keeping us work on our Step 12 in this manner. We gratefully accept one-time contributions through PayPal, Venmo, and Wise, which will be popped in the links in the chat. We also offer a monthly subscription program called Reco12 Spearheads. To join in and help support these cool projects, please consider donating at www.reco12.com/support, or you can click on the link in the chat of the live meeting. We look forward each meeting to growing deeper in effectiveness and understanding as we learn from and with our special speakers. And today we're really blessed. We have the lovely Mags D from Ireland, who's going to share with us for around 30 minutes. Over to you, Mags. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for the invitation to join you all. It's a lovely break from work on a Friday lunchtime. My name is Mags. I am an alcoholic, and drugs are also part of my story. And yeah, it's just an honor and a pleasure to be here. I haven't spoken like this at a meeting for some time, so I hope just to get into the flow of it as and when whatever comes up is what's going to come up. I reflected back, Lisa, in one of the messages. Thank you for your service and for everybody that keeps this group going. A wonderful thing that you have on this online platform. And we talked briefly before the meeting started with regards to, there might only be, I think there's only, 13 people on screen right now, but the reach actually beyond that, Lisa, you shared there's probably been 250,000 listens or whatever the right speak is of the recording. So we never truly know the extent of the reach that we have when we join together. And, you know, like it says in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, by which we're all guided, where 2 or 3 people gather, they can call themselves an AA meeting. And I know that this group deals with all addictions and afflictions, is what this little text message said. And it made me smile when I read the word affliction. I was like, God, that's really serious, isn't it? And whilst I've been listening to your introduction, I cheesy and corny as I am, I looked up the definition of affliction, and it's really, really interesting. So I'm just going to read it. An affliction is a formal term for anything that causes persistent physical pain, mental distress, or great suffering. It is most commonly used to describe a chronic illness, disease, or a deep emotional hardship. And by the grace of God, I don't suffer from any of that anymore. Not one single solitary part of that do I suffer from. I have this progressive illness, that being alcoholism, that used to affect me physically, mentally. I had a spiritual malady as a result of all of the resentments that were within me. And through having had a spiritual awakening, as the result of the 12 steps as outlined in the 164 pages, I no longer have an affliction. And my complete and utter mindset alteration in my thinking, psychic change, personality change, as we now know it from the doctor's opinion, has altered my mindset and thinking about this progressive illness, in that genuinely it's one of the greatest things that has been bestowed on me, because it has given me a life genuinely beyond my wildest dreams. To be an alcoholic who used to be afflicted by all of the physical, emotional, grave emotional disorders that ultimately could have resulted in me not being alive today. You know, this is a fatal malady that we have, and left untreated, there is the deadliness that it talks about, fatal, as it says in Working with Others. We're doomed to an alcoholic death, as it says in the doctor's opinion. I'm no longer affected by that, and won't be affected by that for the rest of my life. But of course, that's contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual program, my spiritual way of living. It is genuinely a life-changing scenario that has taken place only over a short space of time, to be in a place where I don't recognize my life as it was before. Like it talks about in the 9th step promises, you know, I don't regret the past, and I don't wish to shut the door on it. But the reality of it is the freedom that has been given to me, having had the spiritual awakening as the result of the steps, sometimes for me is exceptionally difficult to articulate. And only just this morning, before I've come onto this meeting, one of the most amazing, like genuinely an amazing situation has taken place that can only be God-given. Something previously that would have sent me into an absolute spin of fear, of terror, of emotion, of all of those things. And yet I sit here today being of service and know the action that I need to take to be able to deal with this situation that needs to be dealt with. Previously, I would have ignored that situation. But now, through the grace of this power that is greater than me, I am able to face life no matter what I may face. And the thing for me, I don't have a topic, Lisa, to talk about today. I couldn't come up with a topic. I literally just wanted to come on here and share my experience of what it is to be a fully recovered alcoholic who is no longer impacted by the day-to-day things that happen in life to the extent that I used to be. Of course, things happen in life. Of course, life is not perfect. I'm not suggesting that it is that. There are it's most certainly, like this morning, those trials and tribulations ahead. It talks about those on page 15 in Bill's story, those certain trials and low spots ahead, but through work and self-sacrifice, working with other individuals, sponsorship and sponsoring other individuals, I'm no longer deeply impacted by the life things that happen. It's just that simple, And Lisa, you talked before we came on the meeting about the first time that we had met at a convention in England, and the interaction with a beautiful woman who was only a few days sober after a relapse, from what I can recall. And she was talking about the fact that she was really trying. And the reality of it is, we don't need to try so hard when we're following the clear-cut directions that are set out in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I talk about this all the time. Through my own bitter experience, I tried every single trick outside of the big book to rectify my problem, when in actual fact, the easier, softer way was to do this. It was to follow the 12 steps as outlined. Genuinely, that's all I did. And as a result of that, the transformation was taking place inside me without me even knowing it. Sometimes I was showing up with my sponsor and not even knowing and understanding what he was talking about. But I sat, I listened, and all his suggestions were to me at that time was, keep showing up, keep on turning the pages, and let the book do the work. And that's all I did. And as a result of that, things started to change. I started to change. And it wasn't the change on the external. 100%, it's everything inside me. And I genuinely don't know where I'm going to go with any of this. I see a couple of people on here that I know. I understand a couple of people on here that have been struggling with their journey around getting that full-blown recovery. But you know what? If you keep on this path, if you keep on trudging on this path, 100%, doing it as it's set out, genuinely, it's a cast iron guarantee that you will recover. People hear me say this all the time. If you do the work, it works, and if you don't, it won't. And I only know that from bitter experience. Showing up at meetings and just listening and not taking the action. And this isn't in reference to anybody on the screen here, I'm sure, but, sitting in meetings and just listening to the problem, the common peril, is not the solution. What we have to do is join in brotherly and harmonious action, as it talks about on page 17, discussing that common peril and the common solution. That's the great news that the big book carries. That's fundamentally where our lives transform. Just before the meeting, I was thinking about, the circumstance that has happened to me this morning. What is set out on page 27 was Carl Jung's description of what this spiritual experience is for us, that the ideas, emotions, and attitudes, which were once the guiding forces of the lives of these men, are suddenly cast to one side, and a completely new set of conceptions and motives begin to dominate them. Filled with emotion this morning about the news that has been given to me. And don't get me wrong, it's not life-threatening. Back in the day, it probably would have been. And how I would have then diluted the impact of that would have been to pick up the news and do whatever I needed to do to numb that pain, to numb the news that I'd received. But that's not the case today, because I've got a completely new set of conceptions and motives that drive me. Previously, I would have cancelled this appointment and not shown up, cancelled any appointment and not shown up. But my sponsor has taught me, this fellowship has taught me, that no matter what, the importance of showing up and being of service, that altruistic approach, because see, whilst I'm here with you guys, I have no problems. God's still working in the background with the problem that has been put upon me, not necessarily put upon me, the problem that is there. So whilst I feel as if I'm waiting on this problem being sorted out, God's still working in the background. I don't deviate from what my way of life is. I don't take my foot off the gas with regards to service. I don't take my foot off the gas with regards to sponsorship. In actual fact, what I do is throw myself all the harder into service to keep putting one foot in front of the other, to help other alcoholics or anybody that needs my help. It's as simple as that. And whilst I maintain, and this is really important, and sometimes we can forget this, as long as I maintain this certain simple attitude, that's all we've got to do, a certain simple attitude. And what that means is I'm maintaining my spiritual condition no matter what. How I'm maintaining my spiritual condition is in the practice of my step 10, 11, and 12. I do not deviate from that. I do not dilute the way that it is done in the big book. I follow those instructions, and all the while, whilst I'm doing that, whilst I'm watching what's going on inside me, I'm watching that, I'm asking for whatever it is that's going on inside me to be removed. I resolutely turn my thoughts to others. It's that simple. And that's what I'll be doing and do every single day. Anything that's rising to the surface with regards to this situation and any other situation that might be going on in my life is rising in the surface in me to be healed. It's rising to the surface because God knows I'm ready. He knows I'm ready more than I know I'm ready. And what does ready mean? It means for immediate use. So this is rising in the surface for me to be healed. And tonight I will know what I need to do when I go into my step 11 inventory. I bring to prayer and meditation, seeking the direction and the guidance and the power to carry out whatever I need to carry out in the coming days. You know, how beautiful, how clear cut, how simple that is. And then all the way, all I'm doing is my step 12. Practicing these principles in all of my affairs, carrying the message and being of service. I mean, really, that is a beautiful little gift wrapped in a bow that if I didn't have that, my life would be chaos. I would be in complete erratic behavior. I would be a complete and utter emotional wreck. I would be the victim of everything that's happening to me, was being done to me. Like I corrected myself a little bit earlier when I said this problem that has been put upon me. Really? What is happening here is the problem of my own making. It really is. Something that I've been avoiding, knowing that it's going to crop up, and all of a sudden out of the blue it's cropped up. But the divine timing of it cropping up is a miracle. It's an absolute and utter miracle. And all a miracle is a change in my perception. It's a change in how I look at things. It's a change in how I think about things. Miracles are happening around me all the time. All the time. Everybody thinks that a miracle is, I don't know. Well, think what a miracle is, whatever you want to think it is. I used to think it was this bright light moment and, all of my problems would be solved. I'd be rich. I'd be, in a wonderful relationship with somebody. I'd be jetting all over the world. I could buy whatever I wanted to. How shallow my thoughts used to be. I was as shallow as a puddle. Really. Probably still am in many respects. But by the grace of this power and being able to look at me every single day, I'm no longer impacted by the stuff that happens outside of me. Genuinely. Those external worldly clamours, as it talks about in Bill's story, they can't impact me because it's my thoughts, it's my thinking that needs to change with regards to what is actually happening in this moment, and to be able to accept things as they are. It takes practice. My step 10, when I first started on this journey, I found exceptionally difficult. I found it exceptionally emotional. I found it exceptionally frustrating because I was fighting against my own ego. I was fighting against who I thought I should be, as opposed to recognizing what God needed me to be. Like it says on page 63, I have a new employer. My little plans and designs no longer matter. as it says a little bit further on in the fear inventory. And when we're doing our step 4, I am in this world to play the role that he assigns. In making that decision in step 3, when I first came out of rehab and went through the steps, I really didn't understand that in the short form on page 59. I made the decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood him. It just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Just rolls off the tongue. But the reality of it is, it's my will and my life. My life in its entirety. My life is not my own. I'm here to be that spearhead of God's ever-advancing creation. I am that special agent. We all are that special agent of God's ever-advancing creation. I am an agent of God. I love that. It's quite funny, really, to think about it. But I am an agent of God. I go out and I find the work. He directs me as to where the work may be. I do the work and I get paid in abundance. The freedom from the bondage of my thinking is the most incredible thing ever. And I never thought this program, that this 12-step thing, that this is what this was all about. I had no idea what this was all about. And certainly when I first came into some of the rooms, I wasn't told what this was all about. But my home group in Belfast Recover Group, please feel free to come and join us. We're a big book study. We meet on a Tuesday and a Thursday, 7:30 p.m. UK time. In the evening, and Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6:30 a.m. We're big book enthusiasts. That's all we talk about. That's how we live our lives. Never did I think that this big book of Alcoholics Anonymous was going to be the thing that would give me the clear-cut directions as to how one can live their life. And a beautiful life. And definitely one beyond my wildest dreams. Even if I think about what's happened in the last 6 months of my life, never mind what's happened in the last 6 years of my sobriety, it's phenomenal. I didn't know that those gifts were ahead. Until I got a sponsor and worked the steps like the desperation of a drowning man. This is so simple, we could miss it. And sometimes I feel in the rooms we do the newcomer a disservice if we're not talking about what the solution is. If we're not talking about the common solution. If we're just sitting about talking about our problems and what's going on in our lives, we're doing the newcomer a disservice. Remember, the meetings are where the newcomer comes to find the fellowship that they wish to seek. My sponsor taught me, if you're sitting in meetings and you're not sponsoring or you're not being sponsored, then what are you doing? It's a pretty harsh reality, but it's true. If you're not being sponsored or you're not sponsoring, what are we here for? Just sitting about, contemplating our navel, or what are we doing? I don't know. And if you think you might have an inkling that you might be an alcoholic, then you need to get a sponsor to establish the fact. Diagnose yourself, like it says on page 31. Be convinced, be moved by the evidence that actually you're thinking about the fact that you might have a problem, your gut feeling, your intuition, the God of your own understanding that you don't even know anything about yet is probably telling you you've got a problem and you need some help. Like it says, what seemed at first a flimsy reed was always the loving and powerful hand of God. So without you even recognizing it, your God is there. Call it what you want. Creative intelligence, Spirit of the universe, Father of light, Christ, whatever. All words that are mentioned in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Even without you recognizing it, the power may be working in and through you to direct you to the place where you're going to find the solution that will solve all your problems. That's what our fellowships are about. The whole God thing, anybody that's new,
got questions about addiction, recovery, or just life in general? Let's noodle it out together. Grab your big book, a pen, a highlighter, and a notepad, and join Nikki M and me, Justin B, on Reco12 Noodle It Out with Nikki M. Each episode, we take real-life questions, ours, yours, and those from the recovery community, and dig deep into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous to find real, practical solutions. So, if you're ready to do the work and apply the solution, tune in to Noodle It Out with Nikki M, streaming now on your favorite podcast platform.
Anybody that's listening to this, anybody that has that agnostic temperament every now and again, don't be concerned. Don't be put off by the God thing. If you're listening to this and you've got a program and you've got a sponsor and you think that God isn't working for you, don't be concerned. Just keep doing what you need to do. Keep on following the clear-cut directions. Keep on showing up with your sponsor. Keep on turning the pages. Keep on letting the book do the work. Because the power of what is included within the 164 pages gives you the access to that power. That is never, ever, ever in question. And I know our human frailties will give us the doubt, the prejudice, the old ideas, the fixed ideas that we know better. The reality of it is that you don't. I don't know better. That set-aside prayer that you said at the top of the meeting, Lisa, is one of the most powerful spiritual tools that I have in my possession. To be possessed means to be blessed with. I am blessed with, and even set aside every single thing you think you know about the word blessed. You might think that that's a spiritual term. You may be bristling with antagonism about the word blessed. Set aside every single thing you think you know about that word and any spiritual terms that are talked about in the fellowships. Because if you don't, you're creating your own blocks to the awareness of God's presence inside you. The reality of it is my life now is the continual practice and work of becoming aware, becoming awake to the blocks of the awareness of God's presence in me. And it's a continual, daily reprieve of continually doing the work to excavate, clear, get rid of, whatever it is, the words that you want to use, the blocks inside me to the awareness of God's presence. And I emphasize that, inside me. It ain't got anything to do with beautiful Lillian on this screen or Olivia on this screen or Rosemary on this screen. It's not about the people standing in front of me that are the blocks to the awareness. You are not the problem in my life. I am the person that needs to look at everything that's going on inside me. Because when something's rising in me, it's something from the past often that I'm holding on to and that needs to be cleared. And what the 12 steps and what our daily reprieve enables us to do is to look at that so beautifully and ask God to remove them. The most important relationship in my life right now, and always, is the relationship that I have with that power. Because when I have that relationship, all my other relationships are perfect. When I'm connected to that power, there is no question about the direction of my life. When I am connected to that power, my will is always His will. Yes, I've been provided with free will, but in any given moment of the second of the day, millisecond of the day, I have the choice to find Him now, as it says on the top of page 59. That little mantra, that beautiful part at the top of page 59 can often get missed when it's read out in meetings. Chapter 5, how it works. May you find Him now. He who has all power. We ask the prayer for His protection and care with complete abandon. on the previous page, page 58, it talks about the fact that we let go. Absolutely. Those words are laser precision. They've been chosen for a very specific reason. And you know, when I talk about the big book, I will always refer to the pages, because if you are new and you think I'm talking gobbledygook, or you're thinking I'm making this stuff up, or even if you've been around for a while and haven't picked up the big book and don't have a sponsor, go to these pages, see that I'm talking about the truth of what is set out in our 12-step program of recovery. See that I am not giving you the kind of, well, whatever. I'm giving you the truth that's set out, the place where I find everything about how I recover, what I suffer from, and what I have to do for the rest of my life to remain safe and protected in a place of neutrality, not impacted by alcohol, not ever going to be afflicted by this illness to the extent that I, whatever the words are. Everything is set out in those 164 pages. Like it says in the foreword to the first edition, the first paragraph, we need go no further for any authentication. Everything that we need is in here. You hear the likes of Myers Raymer, Chris Raymer tell us this is the truth. This is the truth. And again, I say it, it's so easy we could miss it. If there's one thing that has changed my life, from the bottom of my heart, if there's one thing that has changed my life that I never, ever thought that I was going to be capable of doing, it was sponsoring other people through this program. If you're at the point where you're going through the steps, or if you've already been through the steps and you're not sponsoring, you are missing out on the bright spark of life. You don't need a 2-year qualification. You don't need to be sober for 2 years. When you've had the spiritual awakening, as the result of the steps, you pick up the big book and you approach the newcomer and you give them what has been given to you. There is absolutely and utterly nothing to be afraid of. Because when I sit in front of another individual and open that big book, we just let the book do the work. All I have the privilege and honor to do is to sit with another human being, armed with the facts about myself, like it says on page 18, armed with the facts about myself as to how I use the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous to have the spiritual awakening as the result of the steps, to gain access to that power and give it to other people. You've heard me say this before, Magella. You don't need to know whether I'm married, divorced, have 72,000 children, whether I work, whether I'm unemployed, whether I've got money in the bank, whether I'm back with my family, whether I'm not back with my family. That's not the facts that you need to be known of me. Armed with the facts about how I recovered using the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous is what you should be interested in. My personal life is not anybody's business. You'll never hear me talk about the detail of what's going on in my personal life. But I can definitely share with people how every single spiritual action that I take has transformed my life beyond measure. Beyond measure, beyond words, to the extent sometimes that I can't and don't. I don't know how to articulate it. And that's probably why today it might seem quite rambling, because I am jumping all over the place. There's something incredibly moving, and special isn't even a word for it. Transformative is the word, and many others probably, about the power of people coming together and sharing the misery of the affliction that they're currently in, and watching those individuals transform by following a few simple rules. There's something phenomenal about the opportunity to take someone's hand and place it in the hand of the God of their own understanding. And if you're not doing that and you're a member of this fellowship, you genuinely are missing out on the bright spark of life. I have relatives that don't know they need this program yet. And my sponsor has taught me my responsibility is to keep this fellowship going, to keep this big book work going, to keep this permanent recovery across the world going for the people that don't know they even need it yet. The people that wrote the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous took time, effort, energy, in very extenuating circumstances, with no access to the technology and everything that we have today, snail mail, but they were painstaking about their endeavours of spreading the word across this planet. And look at here we are today. You know, my sponsor taught me also, if this is not inconvenient in terms of being of service, then you're not doing enough of it. And I love that. I love that. It is inconvenient. But the rewards, if you want to use that word, that we receive in abundance, the peace of mind being the most important thing for me. Forget about the external stuff. The Kathleen prizes, as one might describe it. That's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Peace of mind, to put my head on my pillow at night, to be able to go and do a good job, to be able to help other women, you know, other people, doesn't matter, gender, doesn't matter. It's the most phenomenal thing. So for the newcomer, if you're not doing this, following the clear-cut directions, you need to be. And I'll just leave it at that, Lisa. Thank you. I hope it made some sense.
Hey Spearheads, if you're looking to dive deeper into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with people who live the solution, then you won't want to miss Reco12 Big Book Roundtable. Join David G., Nikki M., and me, the moderator Justin B., 3 recovered addicts from multiple fellowships, as we break down the big book line by line. In each 30-minute episode, we share our experience, strength, and hope in a real, raw, and practical roundtable discussion. So, if you are ready to learn and apply what you learn, tune in to Reco12 Big Book Roundtable on your favorite podcast platform.
Oh, thank you so much, Mags. I love listening to you. You've got such a powerful message, and you know, maintaining the spiritual program of living, what I heard at the beginning, and it's so true. You know, it says not rest on our laurels, because we have to be doing this stuff every day. And I love how you were really passionate about the sponsoring. I know for me, it's, you know, I don't give it away. I have to do that to even get it. That's when it starts really opening up, and I learn so much. And like you said, so freely given to us. I've heard people say it's almost like stealing if you don't, you know, pass it on. I don't know if that's a bit harsh or not, but if anyone wants to come in with some questions for Mags, please feel free to. You can raise your hand, or if you want to pop it in the chat. Do you know what, Mags? To be completely honest, every time I thought of a question, I was writing it down and then you'd answer it. And I was thinking, but that's how I love the in-depth. But I love as well that, you know, you saying about quoting pages, because thankfully I was taught as well at the beginning, you know, if it's not in the book, because there's many, in my experience, diluted messages in my in-person meetings and stuff. And at the beginning, it can get quite confusing. But I was always told, you know, if it's not in the book, then don't listen. But, you know, that was just my experience. But when you were talking about people struggling with the word God and stuff, how did you find it when you first come in the rooms, Mags? Did you struggle with the word God? Did you struggle to push aside prejudice or any old beliefs? What did it look like for you coming in?
I didn't struggle with the word God, not at all. But what I did struggle with was that I thought I had to maintain the God of my childhood. So when anybody was talking about it in the rooms, I was automatically thinking the God of my organized religion that I'd been raised in as a child, which was not what I could get my head around. That just wasn't going to work for me. Because up to the point of coming into the rooms, it was like, well, if there was a God, then why am I afflicted with this alcoholism? He's punished me. Why is it me out of all of the family? But when I eventually got to my home group and got my sponsor, they were very, very clear. And it's set out on page 28, and there is a solution. Page 28 is a really fundamental, beautiful piece of writing for the newcomer to understand that it indicates there is a multitude of ways in which we have discovered God. And it means that all of us, whatever our race, creed, colour, are children of a living creator with whom we may form a relationship upon simple and understandable terms. Those having religious affiliations will find here nothing disturbing for their beliefs or ceremonies. There's no friction among us over such matters. But what, to your point, Lisa, what I was hearing in the rooms was all sorts of everything and not that. But when my sponsor brought me to that, it made sense that my set-aside prayer, I was able to set aside the prejudice. Like it says on page 49, and we agnostics, they're beg us to lay aside our prejudice, even against organized religions. So that gave me the permission, almost, if you like, to say, okay, so it's not going to be that organized religion. Well, what is it going to be? And then we went through the spiritual terms of spirit of the universe, father of light. What does all of that mean to you? Realm of the spirit, all of those things. And that gave me the opportunity to explore what the spiritual terms meant to me and come to the idea of God, the conception of God at that point, which has just grown and developed over the course of time. The key thing for me is setting it aside, and that this big book gives you the access to God. That's why I'm saying don't be concerned about it. Don't ever be concerned. And like it says in the spiritual experience at the back of the book as well, no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of this program as long as they're willing, honest, and keep an open mind to it all, So I hope that made some sense and answers the question.
No, thank you, Mags. Rosemary, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I do. And you know what? When I put up my hand, she spoke exactly. You did, Mags D from Ireland. Exactly what I was going to ask you about. First of all, I want to thank you, Lisa, for hosting this Reco12. Thank you so much. And, and Mags as well for your talk. And I just got so much from it. And I think I was meant to be here this morning because I just noticed my son was here wanting to print something. And I went into my email and I saw this Reco12 and it was 11:45. And I said, you know what, I'll just go on that today now. Normally I'd be doing 150 other different things. Like you spoke, I'm really in a quandary about God. Like I do have a big issue with even saying the word God, because exactly as you said, that God to me is the Sacred Heart picture up on the wall with a candle in front of it. The picture that, my childhood, my organized religion and everything. And funny as well, I'm hosting another meeting tonight. This is my second meeting this morning, actually, and I hosted one earlier on. But so I'm hosting a meeting tonight, and because I'm in such a quandary, because I've done the steps and I've kind of half sponsored people and everything. So I put up we have a topic meeting, and so I put up the question tonight: is your higher power different to the God of your understanding? And I said, I'm being so selfish now, wanting to speak about this because I want to understand it better than I am understanding it. And I also, in a meeting, a guy I know now who's in recovery, and he's maybe 6 years sober now, and he said, I found God. And in my own head, I said, oh, Jesus, please don't ever let me say something like that at a meeting. I found God. But I want to be able to sponsor, and I want to be able to speak to people about God, because it's such a huge part, but I can't, because I'm so caught up in this God that I grew up with. And, something, I've heard the set aside prayer, but I don't use it enough. And I was at another meeting and I asked the guy the same question. And he said, use your set aside prayer and do it for 30 days. And so, you know what? I said I will, but I didn't. So I'm actually going to start again today now. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you. Thank you.
Come in.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
So set aside prayer for 30 days. Set aside prayer every second of your life. Set aside every single thing you think you know about everything in your life. And Rosemary, so beautiful to hear you. And you know what? You just said, and I've written it down so don't forget it. You said, I want to be able to talk about God. I want to be able to talk about God. You are talking about God. And as a result of that, the last line in We Agnostics, chapter 4, when we drew near to him, he disclosed himself to us. The fact that you are talking about God is a significant start to you moving near to him. Okay? So don't let your thought process tell you that you're not talking about God. You are. You're making the demonstration. You're being willing. You're being honest. You're being open-minded. Those are the essential requirements. They're the things that are completely and utterly indispensable. What you've got to do every single second of the day is set aside every single thing you think you know to have a new experience with God, because your thinking is the thing that's stopping you from that. So do it for 30 days, but then do it another 30, another 30, another 30, another 30. Don't put a time scale on it every single second of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you for your question, Rosemary. And I'm sure you've helped so many by asking that. And I've not actually heard that suggestion before, Mags, about do it for 30 days and then continuing. So that's
I am not, by the way, Lisa, I am not an advocate for 30 days. It is not, there is no time scale to be put on prayer.
No,
there is
but continuous
time scale to put on a connection with God. Page 59, may you find him now. There is no time scale on prayer. What's that all about? Human intervention? No, we tap into the power. We choose. We can have a choice or not. If you want to stay in your own free will that's causing you misery, stay there. Good luck with that. Whereas we can access it. We have the choice to access it now. Call upon the power, that inner resource. Tap into the source. Resource it. I'm so passionate about this stuff because we're making this difficult for people when it's so simple. Page 28 tells us. It tells us. And We Agnostics, a treasure trove. Read it, Rosemary. Read it again and again and again. And, whatever. You get my drift.
I do. Thank you. I do.
Well, thank you so much, Mags. Magella, come in.
Hey Reco12 Spearheads, if our recovery resources have helped you, please consider a donation. Your financial support, as well as your word of mouth support, keeps Reco12 running and reaching the man who is still sick. Donate today at reco12.com/support or check the show notes for PayPal and Venmo links. Every contribution helps carry the message. Thanks for being a Reco12 Spearhead.
Hey everyone, my name is Magella. I'm an addict. Thank you, Mags, for all that. It's absolutely amazing. Could listen to you all day. And thanks, Lisa. It's great to see you. Haven't seen you this while, but There was a couple of things, I'm sober about a month, and I have a new sponsor, and she's from the recovery group in Belfast, so I'm delighted with that. And she's a lovely person, and I've been on the recovery group a few times. But when you're talking about God, and I was brought up as a Catholic, and in our house it was, battered Andy, if you don't go to Mass on a Sunday, you're going to go to hell. It was like a religious thing that, like fire and brimstone, So when I came into AA, and I'm going in and out for a long time, the God thing to me was, or the higher power. Like, I pray away, and I do say the set aside prayer, and it is a great tool. But for me now, the God of my understanding, and I haven't went through the steps yet, I'm still on step 1, just starting the steps. The God of my understanding now would be a God of love and understanding. And that's what I cling on to now. Just my God now is not the God I was brought up with, but I still have it as Jesus Christ, like, and God, but as in a different perception. I think, that's the way that I'm thinking now anyway, because in the rooms they do preach a lot about it's God of love and understanding, and on that program, it does talk a lot about God, and I don't mind that. I can accept that 100%. Like, but there's some of the things that I'm having to read here at the minute that I don't understand. See in the doctor's opinion, and it comes down to the last paragraph on XV triple one. Men and women drank essentially because they liked the effect. That's why I did drink essentially, because I loved the effect of it. I loved the effect produced by alcohol, but I loved it, and it worked for a time whenever I was younger and all that. We had some good times in it. And then it said then the sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot after a time differentiate the truth from the false. I don't know what that means. They differentiate the truth from the false. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one, which is right for me. It became the only normal life that I had, and I needed to change. But they're restless, irritable, and discontent as they experience a sense of ease and comfort, which at once that drink brings, and that is, I can completely understand that, because when I'm not drinking, I get this, feeling of, you can get a feeling in your gut that that it's not a right feeling. It is a feeling of uncomfortable experience. It is uncomfortable. But I know in my head, my thinking, that if I lifted a drink straight away, that would go away. So I have to sit then in this discomfort and this, unease. And I'm trying not to do that at the minute, because I get that feeling in my gut, and that's what takes me back. So that's what I just wanted to say. That's where I'm at, like, and I do struggle, but I do want to be able to help people. But I'm in and out of AA for 8 years. No, not 8, about 7 maybe. And I remember the Belfast recovery group at the start whenever I came in, and then I left because I was going out and in and out and in. But you talked too about, like, I go to my local meetings here, but the big message isn't carried as much there. It is more about the problems. But whenever it comes to my turn to share, now I share about the solution, and I'm not even in the solution. Like, I'm in the solution, but I'm not through the 12 steps. But when I share that, a lot has been coming from you, Mags, because I listen to you all the time. And when you say something, they kind of look at you, and then I'm scared to share, because I'm not sharing about any problems now. I want to share the solution, because I know my problem. Everybody knows their problem. We're all here for the same thing. But I know my problems. Well, I need the solution now. Do you know what I mean? I'll leave it there. That's just what I wanted to say. And thanks, Mags. You're absolutely amazing. And without you, I don't know what I would do, because I listen all the time. And I'm on the other, what do you call it? Meeting. the penguins. So between the penguins and yourself and the recovery group, I'm getting a completely different understanding than I'm getting in my local meetings, if that makes sense to you. And then I don't want to go to the meetings, the face-to-face, because I'm not hearing in most of them what I want to hear. And some of them you do, you know, a person, but it's like then you don't want to go to them meetings. And then if you say you're on Zoom, they go, Zoom? You're hiding behind the camera? Blah, 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 you know. So I don't know. I get confused and then I get frustrated. So I'll leave it there, Mags. Thank you. And thanks, Lisa, and everybody on the meeting.
Thank you, Magella. What's your view on that, Mags? Because you know what, Magella, you're not alone with this. I too, my in-persons, I live in the middle of nowhere, and my in-person meetings are very much like, you need a meeting when you walk out, because I'm absolutely feel drained, because it is just all the problems and the solution. And I too struggle with this, because I want to go to the in-person meetings and I'm told, I'm going to give what I can give, not go there with a closed mind of what I can get from it. But it's really difficult when it does just lower your rent. I call it vampire energy vampires, because I do feel literally drained. What's your view on that, Mags?
It is none of my business what is going on and what other people are sharing in the meetings that they choose to go to. My responsibility as a trusted servant in Alcoholics Anonymous, as a sponsor, is to carry this message from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Whether they agree with me, disagree with me, think what I'm saying is controversial, it is none of my business. I place no opinion, I place no judgment on those individuals. I do what I've got to do. Ultimately, some of those people got me to where I am today, and I'm exceptionally grateful for them. But if there's a point of controversy, I don't get involved. I stick to the truth of what's outlined in the pages. So, for example, if somebody says, don't lift up the first drink, it's not in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous worded in that way. I will then go on to explain, when my opportunity comes to share, the reasons why the newcomer shouldn't pick up the first drink, and that it's the thinking before the drink, that it's the mental obsession, it's the physical allergy. I will talk about the facts. I will talk about the truth of what the program is. I don't care what they have to say about me. I don't let energy vampires, and I don't like to use any of those phrases because they're labels and all of that. People choose to say what they wish to say. That's totally and utterly fine. Through the grace of what I've been given in my step 10, 11, and 12, I am not impacted by these individuals. I'm employed by God. I'm a special agent of God. I carry the common solution message, the great news that this book carries, and I stick to that. And you know what? If they roll their eyes, great. It means I've disturbed them. And that is a positive thing. It tells us in working with others, we'll have disturbed them about the drink problem. Even though they may not want us to know, we disturb them. That might get them to be more inquisitive and curious about what we're talking about. Then I've done my job. That's how I look at it.
That's great. That's so great.
Can I just say something as well? I know, Mags, you're saying exactly is right, what you are saying, definitely. But I can see Magella's point as well. If she's a newcomer coming into a meeting and all you're listening to are, stories about bad luck stories and all this, and she's sitting there as a newcomer, and you see, what you said is perfectly true. So, but you will say, well, these are the facts, this is the solution, this is, find the God of your understanding, all this. But there mightn't be you in a lot of the meetings either,
Well, but there might not be. But if I'm the only one, my job doesn't change, okay? I've been there, like Magella has been, many of us have been in, like Lisa has shared, many of us have been in that position. I hear exactly what you're saying, Rosemary, 100%. But we have a responsibility to carry the message of AA. That's the only thing we've got to do. That's it. And if anybody's coming back at me in a meeting, whatever, they are entitled to have their opinion. They're entitled, but it's not personal. It's not about me. It's not anything to do with me. Absolutely and utterly not. And as long as I stick to what my job is, then I am A-okay. I hear exactly what you're saying. There's a meeting down the road from me and I encounter that regularly, you know, but I still go in and say, and they roll their eyes when they see me coming in with a big book underneath my arm. They're like, oh God, here she comes. And I'm like, hi, how are you? It doesn't change the way that I am. You know, they might not ask me to sit at their top table because they know what they're going to get. That's okay. My job is to go in and approach the newcomer. My job is to go in and make sure that the person that's coming and has been sitting about in the rooms for 4 years with a confused message starts to hear a level of consistency. What they're going to get from me is consistency. That's for sure. When it comes to the message of how I have a spiritual awakening as the result of the steps, I'm a broken down record. I don't make any apology for that. I don't care.
If I walked into a meeting here with a big book, which I would love to do, but they would look at me as if I had horns in my head.
Well, do it.
You know, hey,
do it.
Just walk in with a book under my arm. They'll be going, where are you going with that book?
Yeah,
I'll tell you how that works out.
Do it.
I think that's such a strong message, because I'm so familiar with the eye rolling and that, but you've really reiterated, we've got to go in to give the message, and regardless of what what the response is, it's not my problem. I love that. I've learned something very important today. I'm going to persevere, Mags. Thank you so much for that.
If I walk on with this book tonight to my meeting, so the first thing they'll say to me, why have you got your book with you? So what would I say back to that?
The one thing I would say, I've got my big book with me because that's where the programme is outlined, and that's what my sponsor's taken me through, is the very simple answer. State the facts. I'll keep this really brief. Magella, you're on step 1, an incredibly important step. Of course it is. It's not that you haven't got a message to share because you're only on step 1. Mm-hmm. That in and of itself is a phenomenal thing to talk about. And the fact that you've been around the rooms for 8 years, you've now got a sponsor, you've got a big book, you're working the steps. If you have to talk about that over and over and over and over again, that is perfect. Don't think that you're going into those meetings with nothing. You have a seat. You have a desire to stop drinking.
That's what they would say.
You're doing what is asked of anybody that's in the fellowship. You should either be being sponsored or sponsoring. That's it.
Well, they would think that if I was sharing or was trying to help somebody, you can't help anybody. You don't have a message to carry because you're not through the 12 steps yet.
But Magella, what I would say is we're giving that too much airtime, and what we have to do is to stick to the solution. You know what you've got to do. Irrelevant what those people are saying, irrelevant what those people are doing, irrelevant if they're judging and giving an opinion you. That is not your business. That's not your job. Line in the sand, let them be who they are, because they only know what they know, and that's okay. They're allowed to be that way too. You know what you need to do. That's what our primary purpose is, to carry this message. End of story. And then there's no controversy. Then there's no debate. Then there's nothing to be discussed. It's as simple as that. We go to the meeting to be of service and leave. That is it.
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Stella. Thank you, Mag. So it was such a great Reco12 speaker meeting for all addicts and their loved ones. If there's any questions we haven't answered, or if you do have, if you're listening to this, please consider joining our WhatsApp community by sending an email to reco12pod@gmail.com and joining there. Any questions we didn't get to, they will get back to you. So over to you, Mags, for a prayer of your choice. Thank you.
We'll just simply end with the serenity prayer to the God of your own understanding. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Thank you all so much.
And you're going to like this, Mags, what we end on. I was smirking when you were saying it. There is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find God now. Stick and stay, guys. When you do, come all the way in, sit all the way down. Let's trudge this road of happy destiny together. Work it. You are worth it.